Welcome to High Street Matters, a podcast from BIRA, the British Independent Retailers Association. My name's Steve Dyson, a journalist who's interviewing business owners and experts about issues which impact independent retailers today. High Street Matters explores crucial subjects from consumer trends to retail crime, and from parking charges to staff training, providing top tips to help businesses stay ahead of the curve. In our latest episode, we're looking at how BIRA is working with a company which provides online data to show what products are stocked and where in real time, which helps to drive customers back into high street stores. I'm going to be interviewing Nick Brackenbury, the co-founder and chief executive of Near Street, along with one of the traders who's benefiting from the new technology. I'm speaking now with Nick Brackenbury of Near Street. Hello, Nick.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Nick. Nick, tell us a bit more about yourself, about Near Street and its live data solutions for BIRA members and other high street traders.
Yeah, well, it's actually a bit of a funny story how we got started about 10 years ago now, and it was a very literal light bulb moment that my co-founder Max pitched to me. So he told me the story where he was about to have some friends over for dinner one evening, and the light bulb in his dining room went. And so he did what a lot of us would do. He unscrewed it and tapped whatever it said on the side of it into Google. A Philips 15-watt CR7 fitting LED near me, and Google gave him all these places that would deliver it to him tomorrow, which is quite an amazing feat of logistics, but nothing in his local neighborhood. And so he popped out to his local shops and he went to the first and the second, and they didn't have quite the one he was looking for. And after about half an hour, 40 minutes of wandering around his shops, he found it in this little convenience store just at the end of his road. And when he got home, he asked himself, why is it so much easier to get this light bulb, shipped from some warehouse hundreds of miles away than figure out it's in this convenience store 100 yards from my front door? And he pitched me this idea, and my first reaction was, well, there must be an app for that somewhere. There must be something that does that. And the more I looked at it, the more it just struck me that it's incredibly difficult to figure out where you can get something so simple as a light bulb from a store nearby. And then that was really kind of the catalyst that got us to get going all the way back in 2015 now. So, today, as you said, we're a company that helps retailers connect their in-store stock data to the web and all the places that people like you and me might be looking for it. So places like Google, across Meta's products like Facebook and Instagram, places like Uber now for local delivery, but anywhere really that a shopper might be looking for something, browsing for something, looking for inspiration for something they want to buy. And we just help tell them that product is in fact in a shop nearby that they might not have realized.
It all makes sense, and I can really see where he was going there with looking for something as simple as a light bulb and finding it down the street after spending ages searching. I've done similar things myself, so it makes sense. But what does that actually result in for the average trader? I'm just trying to think of it from their kind of shop floor thinking now. And how is it different to them simply updating their website and updating their own social media with their own stock details?
What's really fascinating is how what we think of as the near me customer has really evolved over the last 10 years, even since we began the company. And there's some data I saw recently that something like 83% of shoppers would actually prefer to visit a physical store than shop online if they could easily confirm that it definitely had what they're looking for in stock, because none of us like a wasted journey, and we're all a bit lazy often as well about trying to call a store and check to see if something's in stock. And we also saw some data that something like half of all shoppers actually end up visiting a store within 24 hours of making one of these near me searches online. So, when people go online, we often think that they're just trying to buy something from an e-commerce store. But what we've really seen change is lots of people now go online for research, of course, but whether they buy online or whether they buy in store, it's not kind of a given that they're going to go to an e-commerce store. They're actually just looking to solve a need or solve a problem. And if they can easily find out that a local store can solve that problem for them, then that's actually a preferred option for many good reasons that lots of retailers, and particularly independent retailers, will understand. There's just a lot more of a better service, a more comprehensive service, a more knowledgeable service that can be delivered in a physical store. But one of the crazy things today is that something like 95% of all in-store inventory data still isn't actually visible online. So in places like Google, 95% of all the stuff in all the shops on all the high streets, Google doesn't know it exists. And so when you think about that near me customer, going into Google and starting to think, where can I find that light bulb? Most of the time, Google doesn't actually know that it's in stock in a shop nearby. And so it can't tell the customer to go and get it nearby. Now, it can guess a little bit, say, well, it's a hardware store, so it probably stocks light bulbs, but it doesn't know. And so what we're doing is we're basically telling people like Google or companies like Google exactly what is in fact in stock in local stores, and saying that light bulb is in stock right now in this store. They've got 7 of them. And we saw this light bulb in stock 10 minutes ago. And that's really what the technology is doing, is it's going into these in-store EPOS systems that most retailers have, and very, very frequently pulling out the data about what's actually there right now, doing a bunch of quite clever things behind the scenes to enhance and clean up that data, and then sending it to places like Google, where it can show up for that light bulb search, or for customers looking for that nearby. And really, that's what we're trying to do, is make it as simple as possible for a shopper to discover that actually their needs can be solved, and they can get what they want at a shop that's just down the road from them, that's already got it in stock. They don't have to have it delivered tomorrow. They don't have to miss a delivery and go to the post office to pick it up 2 days later. It's right there. We're on their commute from the office to the station. It's amazing what's already around us, and we just have to try and make it visible for the big web platforms like Google or Facebook or Uber or any of the other big ones.
The immediacy of it is really attractive. But tell me more about that data and technology that you use. And the reason I ask is because how can you at Near Street make sure that it is the latest info, and that it doesn't mean wasted and therefore frustrated journeys for shoppers?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because what we don't want to do is compromise on the data that we show to shoppers, because we could sort of update something once a week, and make a spreadsheet and upload it. But as any retailer listening to this will know, the speed at which a lot of stock turns over means that can be out of date really quickly. And obviously it depends category by category and which sector a retailer is in. But what we don't want to be doing is telling shoppers that we've got things that we don't, because it's just a really poor experience then. And so what we did from the very early days of the company is actually work very closely with retailers to figure out how we could get that data on a very high frequency basis. So how can we find out what's in stock as often as possible? And really what we found the answer was integrating directly into the stock management systems that are already in use in store. So, not sending out an iPad or something like that to input any new data on, but let's just integrate with what's already in there and just take a very basic set of data out as often as we possibly can. So typically every 15 minutes or so, we'll get a snapshot of every barcode, every SKU, how much it costs at that moment in time, and how many are in stock. And that's what we then process, and we enhance it with some product data, and we do a little bit of cleansing work on it as well. And then that's what gets sent off to places like Google. And today we process about 1 billion lines of stock every day, which is wild to think about. So that's, you can think about that almost as like a spreadsheet without 1 billion rows of data in. So that's kind of flying past about 12,000 lines of stock per second throughout the day, assuming it's running evenly throughout 24 hours, which of course it's not. But the point is, it's completely automatic. It's trying to get that data out of the system, because one of the things we learned really early in the company in 2015, 2016 was just how time stretched retailers are running their businesses. So we thought, how can we just get out of the way and just work with what's already in the store? So once it's running, it just kind of runs in the background. And how can we just get that into the places that retailers care about, like Google, or recently like Uber, for local deliveries, really, so that it just runs in the background and you don't have to think about it. And that was a real insight in the early days of the company.
Listening to you, Nick, if I was a trader, I would certainly be interested, but I do want to push you on the results. Has it actually help traders? Have you got stories or reports or testimonials about its increasing footfall and therefore revenue and profits for traders? Because that's what makes the the difference in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. If it's not actually driving results, then it doesn't make any sense. What's really great is we have kind of a combination of both testimonials, but then also the data behind them that shows that it's working. And we see a few different things from retailers. The first that comes up is local visibility. So we have, once we start listing live stock data online and in places like Google, what happens is that retailer and those products start getting found a lot more often. So if we take the light bulb example from earlier, if you're a hardware store, Google can probably guess that you stock light bulbs, but do you definitely stock Philips light bulbs or do you stock LED light bulbs? It doesn't know, it can guess a little bit. But if it knows you definitely stock LED light bulbs, it can suddenly start showing both the product and your store for those types of searches as well, in addition to people who are just looking for hardware stores. And so what happens is we find retailers start getting discovered for many, many other types of searches, and Google gives them a much higher ranking. And then shoppers are much more confident that that store, in fact, is the store that's going to meet their needs. And taking the light bulb example again, we'll definitely have that light bulb in stock. So, we have great retailers like Caroline at Paws Fur and Fin, or Andrew at Brundle Home Hardware, who've basically said, we see this and we see, thousands more shoppers in the data discovering the store every month. But then what you also have is people coming into the shop and kind of holding up their phone with Google open and saying, I've seen you've got this in stock. Is it here? And what I love actually is some of the stories that come from retailers where they say they've often ended up selling stock from the back room of the store that's in their EPOS system but isn't necessarily out on the shelf. But of course, Google doesn't care. It just knows that it's in the shop. And you get customers coming in with often some requests for things that haven't sold in months or years, but have just been in the stock room. And said, yeah, actually, it's funny you ask. We do have this.
That sounds really interesting. So they're almost buying something which the shopkeeper themselves might not know at that instant they've got in stock themselves.
Exactly, and we love seeing that as well. So we see this kind of increase in local visibility, and then we also can look at kind of the online to in-store conversion rate as well. So we can actually see, based on the number of clicks a retailer is getting, we can actually measure how many of those are turning into footfall. Because of course you hear about the people as a retailer that are coming in and holding up their phone on Google, but not everyone does that, of course. And you want to be able to measure it better. And so retailers actually get data that shows how many people are coming in addition to that. And I think that's this really nice balance of, the qualitative side of it, where you actually hear from shoppers directly, but then also the quantitative side, where you can actually measure all these things, like how much more local visibility am I getting, how many of these clicks are turning into in-store customers, what's kind of my cost per visit, if you will, what's it costing me to get one extra customer in store. And that's really, really important for us, that you can actually see that and measure it. Because if you can't measure it, then it's much harder to kind of tell yourself that it's working. And so that's something that's been really helpful, hearing back from retailers that, like, this is what we need to see, and then building that back into the product, showing exactly what's being found, how it's being found, and how many customers that's sending to the store.
It sounds good. But let's listen to one of the BIRA members who's actually using Neostreet. I want to find out how the solution is working for them. Joining me online now is Jane Taylor. She's manager at Morris Mica, a DIY hardware and garden store that has 2 branches in Redditch and Alcester in the Midlands. Hello to you, Jane.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you with us, Jane. Jane, briefly tell our listeners about Morris Mica. How long has it been trading? What does it focus on? And how are things going commercially?
So Morris Mica, in its original form, was founded back in 1895.
Wow. Really Victorian.
A very, very long time. We just celebrated this year 100 years of incorporated business as well, which for its time was very rare.
Yeah.
1924. We have 2 current owners, and they are 3rd generation Morris family. So we've still got the name running through the business. And we've always been located on the same 2-mile stretch of the same road in Redditch as the main business premises, as well as our Ulster store, not far down the road. So we're a bricks and mortar hardware shop, but we don't tend to hold back on trying something new. So we do a bit of everything. We've got our own website as well, which shows our exact stock figures in both shops. We offer a click and collect service. We offer a locksmithing service, which we've got our locksmiths travel all over the nearby counties to help, as well as what we offer in store. So yeah, the business has been a bit of a mainstay, certainly in the Redditch local community. And obviously over the recent years in our Ulster community, and we're always trying to look at ways to improve and ways to future-proof our business.
That sounds great. Just give us a quick idea of how you're doing commercially. I mean, it sounds busy, but how are things going? Is trade up generally or down generally, or how are things going with footfall and things?
So we've just done a recent kind of restructuring and re-merchandising of our Redditch store, which we've noticed an increase in footfall certainly here, and we've invested a lot through our kind of in-house IT techs in terms of the website. So we have seen the odd boost of footfall, but with customer demographics, fears around pensions, cost of living, it has slowed trade, and I'm sure that's the same for a lot of businesses out there. And certainly with the unpredictable weather we've had this year, it hasn't done us any good, sadly. Certainly, certain areas of the business, especially the gardening department, has taken a little bit of a hit this year, sadly.
Yeah, now thinking of that in terms of thinking of your customer base and how to increase footfall in these times, I know that Morris Mica has been using Near Street technology to help consumers search online for products that you've got in stock and therefore attracting them into your store to buy. Tell us more about how you started using this Near Street service.
Yeah, so the business was one of the early ones to sign up, and it was very early in the testing stages with Near Street. So this is back in 2019, and we were put onto it through RBA, so Real Business Applications, and we were very keen to get involved because we wanted to see our products online and sat next to or sometimes above, competition, especially from big brands, big chain stores. But it does really good for kind of highlighting us as a local independent business. So we got on board with that. We've got one of our current directors, who's also the manager of the Ulster store. He actually helped with the development of it as well. So he kind of was very much involved with giving feedback to Near Street of, what we'd be looking for, and just to help kind of develop the tool kind of for ourselves and for anybody else that was obviously using it in the future. So it's quite a nice hands-off approach, really, with Near Street. So a simple thing like just giving them access to our main computer. They've got a chance to just have a look at our stock file, and it all uploads, and they deal with everything with Google, which is who we do most of our format through. And they get it all on there, loaded up. So as long as the information that we've fed it is accurate, then they can do all sorts of amazing things with it, just to kind of get our name out there. And the shopping function on your Google search, you always appear on there. So yeah, kind of that's how it really started, and then just expand from there. There's quite handy reporting tools on it, which has helped us, look at trends in the marketplace, and they're very helpful to get feedback from us in regards to features we want to see, and the help that they provide. They're always on the end of the phone to talk through if there's problems or anything else. So it was quite an easy process to get started.
It all sounds very useful, Jane, but I've got to ask the main question, is it working? To be direct, are you seeing an increase in customers? And how do you know that they're coming to the store as a direct result of Near Street?
It's a good question. It's a very difficult thing to calculate and to quantify, because there are reporting tools available with Near Street, but obviously every customer that comes through the door is not going to say exactly, where they've discovered the product, and, not without asking every single one. But within the reporting tools, there is a way that you can find a correlation between your EPOS system, what's going through your till, and searches using Near Street, and it can have a guess that person that's looked for it has probably come in the shop and get it. So you can kind of see it from the reporting tools there. But quite often we get 1 to 2 people a day in both shops come and say, oh, well, I've seen this on the internet. And they'll show you a picture of their Google search and go, it's telling me that you've got this in store. And that is very, very good.
Really? So you're actually getting people more or less saying, this is where I found it, and you can see from that they use Near Street?
Yeah, absolutely. You get the odd one as well with our own website as well, which is where Knee Street's quite handy, because once you click on a product, it's enabled to take you to your website. So if you have a website as well, it will link to that. And obviously you can shop straight on our own website. And obviously we offer the click and collect service as well through there. So, and the reporting tools are really handy, sort of show you any major trends going on. So you can kind of get ahead of, what's going on in the marketplace. But it's very good at flagging where you're price competitive with, the big name brands that everybody's used to kind of going to. And yeah, the tool is very good for kind of flagging you how far away you are from the person that's searching, and how price competitive you are.
That must be really encouraging to hear people saying that they're using technology that you're working hard to update, etc. I mean, you said one or two a day, but I mean, those are just the people who tell you they're using it. So overall, you in the business feel that this is driving footfall to your stores?
Yeah, definitely. And the more people talk about it as well, the better. And what we're finding as well is it's not just most things you can kind of equate to being certain age groups. But with this, we're getting all manner of people from all walks of life coming in and going, yeah, I had a little search for this. It said that you were the cheapest, that you were my, most local supplier to us. And then they come in and they can see that we've got it in stock, because the good thing with Near Street is it'll only show you your in-stock items. It can't show you what's out of stock, because that's not the stuff you want to advertise. But yeah, so they'll know it's in stock. They know where you are, because it will show you the address and contact details of the branch, knows the price and goes, yeah, okay, you're cheaper than so-and-so, I'll come to you guys. And obviously being a nice local independent store, it's much nicer to support than big chains sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that sounds really encouraging. And in terms of how hard it is for yourself as the trader, how do you find it working with Near Street? I mean, you traders, I know you've not got huge staff. You've got a lot of things to do. You've got stock control. You've got tills to run. You're liaising with customers. You're probably out on one or two jobs as well, doing different things. Is it too much to ask for all this information that Near Street needs from you?
Not at all. It's actually one of the simplest processes, I think, being in the industry has actually been, because all you have to do is just make sure that your stock file is accurate, your descriptions and everything else are correct, because obviously trading standards still applies to things online. It's got to be the exact product that you are actually selling. You just give Near Street remote access. They do what they need to do, pull what information out of your stock file that they need. That just all gets uploaded. I mean, the only limitation we found really is that you can't really edit anything once it's on there, so it kind of has to be right to begin with. So your descriptions and things like that kind of have to be reasonably good. So it can't really have too much tweaks done at a later stage. In terms of ease, I mean, it's a reasonably hands-off approach. I mean, we don't need to think about it. We don't need to touch it. We do tests on it probably once a month to make sure everything is working as it should, that it's taking you to the links that you need to and providing the right information. But other than that, once the setup's done, which is very little effort from our end, it's all looked after with Near Street. So,
Jane, finally, what would you say to other traders out there thinking of using Near Street?
I would say give it a go. You really don't have that much to lose. You really don't have to put too much time and effort into it. If you're maintaining your stock file anyway, if you've got a working EPOS system that is compatible with Near Street, try it for 30 days. If you don't see any increase or any benefit whatsoever, you're not going to lose anything at all. It's just something that you've got to give it a go. And if it works for you, there's no going back.
Jane, store manager of Morris Mica with stores in Redditch and Alcester. Many thanks for joining High Street Matters.
Thank you very much, and I hope our discussion's been helpful to somebody out there.
Still with me and listening to that interview is Nick Brackenbury of Near Street. It certainly sounds like Near Street is working well for Morris Mica's store.
I really love to hear these kinds of stories and hearing firsthand kind of exactly what it's doing for the store. And as Jane mentioned, Morris Mica, thanks to RBA, were really one of the first stores on the platform, and it's something I've always taken a lot of pride in that the team have really built the platform with retailers rather than kind of going into your high castle and sketching stuff on a whiteboard and hoping it's correct. People like Jane have been really, really helpful, and Matthew and Jake there as well, in giving their feedback on the product and helping shape it. And I think today, I think Morris Mica stores have reached something like 6 million local views. So 6 million times or so that their products have appeared for local customers shopping for them near their stores. And that's, they hadn't been doing that before, then all of those would have probably led to an online search instead. So that's what's really great to hear. And what I love as well is thinking about how this actually helps retailers, indie retailers in particular, to compete against big brands and chain stores. So retailers who have massive budgets, these big tier one national retailers that can have huge development teams and huge marketing teams. And then you've got stores like Morris Mica, who are coming up and saying, well, actually, we can kind of do the same thing, but on a totally different budget, and get the same sort of marketing and the same sort of insights that, a massive, national or even global brand might be able to do. And then bring that same sort of both product and marketing and insights experience, but back into an independent retailer. And I really love being able to do that. It's one of the big things that motivates us as a team, is being able to help retailers in that way.
Now, Nick, Morris Mica, as you heard, is using Near Street on its Google channel. You mentioned one or two other channels like Uber that you can use, but tell us more about that. I want traders to listen to the other channels that it can be used on and how and why that works.
Yeah, so Google's definitely the most popular, and I think that's because they were probably first to the game, on the local game, and it's still a really effective way of getting your products out there for local customers. So most retailers start with Google. Then we do a few different kind of areas of products. So we have what we think of as a local channel. So Google is one of those, but we also offer Meta's suite of products, so Facebook's suite of products. That's that's Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Messenger, all places that you can list your stock if those are important channels for you. We've got a variety of tools for retailers' websites. So we've got things like product locators, product page linking, so that if you do want to list inventory data on your website, whether it's an e-commerce site or not, you can provide that lookup tool. And this is particularly useful for retailers that have kind of a basic web presence but don't want to invest too much in it. But it's kind of a little bit of code you can drop in that enables customers on your website to just check there, and then if something's in stock. We just started rolling out a bunch of local delivery options. So that's with Deliveroo, Just Eat, and Uber Eats, who we all probably know as takeaway businesses. But as many people have been following the news over particularly the last 6 months have seen, they're starting to do delivery from retail more broadly now. So if you've got Deliveroo or Just Eat or Uber active in your area, shoppers can now actually browse retail stores on there as well. And effectively what it enables you as a retailer to do is offer local delivery without needing to set up your own service. It just runs through their platforms. And so that's something we've recently launched. And I think what's exciting in the local space at the minute online is just how quickly it's starting to move. So, Apple has made a very big investment in Apple Maps in the last 6 months. But what we're seeing is, I'd expect to see things like local inventory data being surfaced in things like Apple Maps maybe at some point in the next year. TikTok and Snapchat and the whole social commerce movement is becoming increasingly important. And, you can now buy lots of e-commerce through lots of e-commerce sites on them, where, I don't know, an influencer tags a product that they're wearing or using, and you can go and buy it online. And we're looking at ways now to offer that to a local audience as well. So you can see the product and say, oh, it's also available in these 3 or 4 stores near me. So I think that's going to become a much bigger thing in the next couple of years. And that's what excites us about the space, is that, once you've connected your inventory data, there's just a growing number of places that you can start to surface it and show it to shoppers nearby. And really, going back to how we started this conversation, we see our job as a company is like, how do we make that as easy as possible for a local shopper to discover that the thing they're looking for is in fact in stock in a shop nearby and doesn't need to be shipped from some warehouse hundreds of miles away. It's in that store just down the road. And wherever shoppers are looking for that is what we're focused on as a company, and getting that data into those channels and doing that in a way that it's as hands-off as possible for a retailer, so that they can focus on running their business and not focus on managing a whole bunch of extra technologies and marketing tools. And that's that's what gets us excited for the future.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like a really detailed system behind the counter, so to speak. The trader doesn't have to know about all those details, but they can opt to have different channels online. And that brings me to the thinking of price, really. I mean, with all those different options to go for, can you simplify for the traders listening what kind of price structure you have?
Yeah, so price is always really important. And what we've really focused on doing is trying to make this as affordable as possible, because what we don't want to do is make this a technology that's only available to, big enterprise retailers. So for independent retailers, we actually offer this at £29 a month. And so that gets access to the core channels there, Google being the most important one of those. And it's not a long contract or anything like that. It's just a monthly rolling contract. And as Jane said, we've designed this so that you can sign up, connect your EPOS system, choose your channels, and then off you go. It's not a complex, detailed integration. You don't need to know how all the software works. We've really made it as simple as possible. And BIRA have been really, really helpful in collaborating with us in helping kind of build that knowledge in the industry that these tools are possible and run all sorts of helpful educational content. Because ultimately, a lot of the time, it's understanding what's possible and what can be done, rather than actually just making the decision itself. And so that partnership, I think we're very grateful for, because it's a lot of the time it's helping everyone understand what's possible. So for us, it's really a case of, give it a go. There's no long lock-in. There's not much effort to get it going. It's very low risk. And for £29 a month, you can get going very, very easily and access all sorts of different clever technologies. So we'd love to help. We'd love to help people give it a go and really help the whole physical world of retail compete on another level with the online world, and show shoppers that in fact most of the things they want are in fact in stock in a nearby store and don't have to be ordered online. So retailers can also activate and deactivate local inventory ads on Google, and that really starts at about £2 a day. And they can just dial that up for when things are busy. And effectively, the more that they spend on Google Ads, the more often the products appear at the top of search. But it's not something that's required. You can kind of turn it off on and off on a weekly basis, as and when you need it. And then that core product, that core £29 a month, really make sure that your inventory is showing up organically. So on your business pages, in organic search results, on your website if need be. And that's all kind of running constantly in the background as well. So there's this nice ads piece that's flexible on the top, and then there's the core product that sits underneath that makes sure the products are always appearing in organic search for customers all over Google.
Okay, Nick, Nearstreet sounds like it could be a really successful system, but I think it will still be a challenge getting the average trader to sign up. I mean, I've spoken to these people. They're shopkeeping, they're filling shelves, they're looking after everything from security to storage. Why should they consider the extra effort and the extra cost needed to engage with Nearstreet?
Yeah, and we see that people are super, super busy. And so really everything that we've designed, in partnership with people like Jane, is for this to be almost no effort to set up. And we've really tried to make the costs, £29 a month, so that it should be something that's very low risk to try out. It's not an annual contract, it's a monthly contract, and just see if surfacing your products to local customers in places like Google does actually drive more business. And so we've really focused on making it as low effort, as easy to try as possible, and as easy to see if it's working or not as possible. And as a company, we would just like to see the high street succeed. One of our core beliefs is that it has so much value versus the online world that, e-commerce just can't replicate. And we see our job at Nearstreet as trying to just help unlock that and really help retailers show that value to the online world in a way that's hard to do by themselves. So we'd say just give it a go. It's super, super easy and it's very low risk. So we'd love to help.
Nick Brackenbury, co-founder and chief executive of Nearstreet, many thanks for joining High Street Matters. And thanks to you, our audience, for listening to High Street Matters, an original podcast series for BIRA, the British Independent Retailers Association. If you enjoyed the points raised today, you can find and listen to previous episodes by simply searching online for High Street Matters BIRA. And you can find out more about this and other related subjects by visiting BIRA's website at bira.co.uk. Meanwhile, We'll be back soon with more interviews with some of the UK's most successful independent retailers and top experts here at BIRA. High Street Matters. Thanks for listening.